What are the presidential proclamations that restrict entry into the US in 2020? I'm Erick Widman, I'm an immigration lawyer, and we're going to lay out for you the confusing series of proclamations that President Trump has issued, one after the other, from the beginning of 2020, mainly related to COVID. That was the apparent or ostensible reason for these restrictions on the entry into the US from people from certain countries. So the first one came in February 2020 for those who are citizens of China. That was the very first COVID-related restriction. Following that, in March, there was a restriction on the entry of individuals from Iran. Then, on March 13th, the Trump administration issued travel restrictions on the Schengen area. I'm sure Germans say that differently. But there are 26 countries in Europe that are part of this Schengen travel area. And for purposes of this video, capturing them in the transcript, I'm going to read off those countries. Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, Latvia, Liechtenstein, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Slovakia, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland. All of those countries were subject back in March of 2020 to restrictions on entry into the US. Now, March 17th, the United Kingdom also got hit, as did residents of Ireland. So what do these proclamations do? They prevent entry into the US either as an immigrant or a non-immigrant. If you're not a citizen of the US and you are physically present in any of those countries that are subject to the proclamation. But it's not a full-on travel ban. These proclamations didn't restrict travel entirely. There are exceptions, thankfully, even under the Trump administration in 2020. So here are the restrictions that don't apply to foreign nationals. If you, for example, are a lawful permanent resident, a green card holder of the US, you're not subject to the presidential proclamation. You're the spouse of a US citizen or the spouse of a green card holder, otherwise known as a lawful permanent resident. Or if you're the parent or the legal guardian of a US citizen or a green card holder under the age of 21 and that child is unmarried. Or if you're the child, the foster child, or you're a ward of a US citizen or a green card holder. Or, this is a little more rare, you're also not subject to the proclamation if you're traveling at the invitation of the US government related to the containment of the coronavirus. That makes sense. I'm glad the US would not prohibit that. Further exceptions, you're traveling as a member of an air or sea crew, or if you're traveling as a foreign government or a NATO official, or you're an immediate family member of a NATO individual or foreign government diplomat, or you're a member of the armed forces or a spouse or family member of such a person. Those are exceptions, and they're significant exceptions, thankfully, but they're still restricting the travel of hundreds of thousands of people who would otherwise be able to come in. Now, these proclamations don't have an end date, and the way that they're assessed is on the 1st and the 15th of each date. The Secretary of Health and Homeland Services assesses and is required to recommend if the president should continue that restriction, modify it, or adjust it somehow.